Live from WRAL News Headquarters in Raleigh, your number one source for local news. WRAL News, coverage you can count on.
Right now at 6, we're taking a live look at Florida. Governor Ron DeSantis has already declared a state of emergency in more than 50 counties ahead of Hurricane Milton. Good evening and thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Julian Grace. We want to begin, though, with the latest on Helene's impact to western North Carolina. President Biden is sending an additional 500 active duty troops to that area. The White House says that brings the total amount of active duty troops there to 1,500. We now know Helene has killed 115 people so far across North Carolina. Well, we have team coverage tonight, bringing you the latest and newest information live from Mitchell County and watching power outages along with what's true and what's not true about a nonprofit's response to the area. Now, those communities will be trying to recover while we keep an eye on another storm. Meteorologist Anthony Baglione is in the WRAL Severe Weather Center. And Anthony, where is Milton now and where is it headed?
Julian, it's in the Gulf of Mexico this evening, and it is going to continue to track here through the Gulf as we go through the next couple days. This is not going to be a North Carolina storm, but it is unfortunately going to be a big storm for Florida into the middle part of this week. Here's the latest advisory from the Hurricane Center. Winds have gone up to 85. The one update earlier this afternoon went from 65 to 80. So it's actually rapidly intensifying for us out there. 983 millibars is that central pressure. What that says is it is strengthening, as is confirmed by the Hurricane Center. The new update, though, on the track that came out at 5 o'clock does get this up to a Category 4 hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico before some slight weakening as it gets closer to Tampa there until Wednesday afternoon. Despite it being a little bit weaker, don't pay necessarily attention to that 3 versus 4. This is going to be an impactful storm for Florida. Notice all of those model plots continue to show this getting back out into the water, Joan, as we head into later on this upcoming week. We're going to go over more in detail, though, this storm system and a look at our forecast here at home coming up in just a few minutes.
All right, thanks, Anthony. This right here is video from WRAL Sky 5. It shows some of the damage in Spruce Pine in Mitchell County. The Toad River came through the community, leaving behind mud. Roads are washed away by mudslides, and many are still without power and water. Now listen to this. The town also says bears and yellow jackets are an issue in their recovery process. WRAL's Destiny Patterson is live tonight in Mitchell County. Destiny, what are you seeing out there tonight?
Well, Julian, you can see some of this debris here outside of these storefronts. This one right here is actually boarded up. But for these business owners, this debris is actually piles of their livelihood. One of the business owners down at the end of this strip that I spoke to today, I was actually there as she made her first sale in more than a week.
We are happy to do anything that we can to help.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, sweetheart.
We're starting to see glimmers of hope.
We're going to help. We're here for the long haul. You guys are our neighbors.
For these hollow storefronts in Spruce Pine.
This is either really going to destroy Spruce Pine or it's like this cleansing.
Most of their downtown businesses wiped out by Helene.
I'm not sure what to expect. I'm just kind of taking it a step at a time.
The first step, power.
That's the first I know.
Yeah, first power we've had that I've noticed.
A struggle shared by other mountain communities like Burnsville, 15 miles away.
It's been pretty rough the last week or so getting really anything.
David and Wendy Hudgens finally got their medication after being trapped in their home.
It's nice to be able to actually get into town and get something that we needed.
Others in Yancey County still with little options due to washed away bridges.
Like a battle zone, something you would see overseas. I mean,
Or in movies.
Or in movies because you just can't get from point A to point B.
Volunteers have rolled up their sleeves, delivering to those who can't get out and helping clear what can't be repaired. So the town here in Spruce Pine has started a fundraiser to help out these businesses that are struggling here in the downtown area. And as you saw there, they are starting to get some power back, but they still have a ways to go. Our Megan Guelva is tracking that for us. Megan, what are you seeing?
Yeah, some good progress here in the WRAL Live Center, down to about 145,000 outages in North Carolina. Just under 71,000 of those are in Buncombe County. Now, for some perspective, this time last night, we were just under 172,000. That number shot up to 190,000 just a few hours later. We did speak to Duke Energy spokesperson Jeff Brooks about why we could see those kind of fluctuations.
The numbers may change in the system just because the system itself is reconfiguring. So the important number really to look at, I think, is the number of outage locations, and that's dropped significantly down into the single-digit thousands. You know, it was up as high as 16,000 outage locations, events, if you will, that where we were having a crew needed to go to repair.
Now, at this point, crews are now tackling some of the most remote and challenging areas suffering outages. For that reason, keep in mind that the pace of restorations will be slowing down. Back to you.
Doing all they can to get the power back on. Buncombe County officials provided another update just a couple of hours ago about recovery efforts. Officials spoke today from the hard-hit community of Black Mountain. They were appealing for more volunteers and donations. But the one thing they don't need right now is tourists.
Unless you live in one of our small communities that have been so badly damaged by the storm, like Swananoa, Barnersville, and Garing Creek, please stay out. The traffic volume is severely impacting crews' ability to respond.
Buncombe County leaders are also warning people to stay out of the rivers until the EPA confirms they're safe. That includes using river water for flushing. Floodwaters washed away homes, businesses, and roads in the town of Old Fort in McDowell County. A pastor is now leading a supply drive to help people there and surrounding areas get much needed essentials. But as WRAL's Laura Levine explains, he's doing so while also experiencing a trying time of his own. See, his loved ones are unaccounted for, and the search is still on to find them.
Praise and worship fills the room of Destiny City Church, a sermon called Let Your Light Shine.
A beautiful sister's been taken from us.
Yet it isn't an ordinary service, as many come together days after the wrath of Helene.
Know that if they fell asleep that night and the flood came and swept them away, they fell asleep and they woke up in heaven.
Pastor Donald Vest hasn't been in touch with his sister or brother-in-law since the storm hit Old Fort, about 25 miles east of Asheville.
Their home was swept away by flood, along with all of his relatives. My brother-in-law's relatives, 15 houses, 15 relatives, all lost.
All he has are these photos showing what's left of their home, a pile of rubble in the middle of the road, now presuming the worst.
I just want to say what a beautiful person my sister was and my brother-in-law. They were two of the kindest, most generous, beautiful people you would ever know.
And yet, in the midst of this tragedy, he's providing hope through his ministry. His Salisbury church has transformed into a collection site for hurricane relief items.
This is the only thing that's really kept me going is knowing that we could help somebody else.
He says they've delivered truckloads of supplies to those in need. He's hanging on by a thread, but says he will practice what he preach.
Therefore, let your light so shine that men may see your good work.
Relying on faith to let his light shine through the darkness.
We're not going to just get through this situation. We're going to thrive.
God is so good.
Reporting for WRAL News, I'm Laura Levine.
Pastor Vest is encouraging so many others. Well, have you seen this? FEMA has launched a rumor response page online explaining what it says are the facts behind what's going on around social media. That is very important. Let's bring in WRAL's Carly Haynes. She is live tonight with how long these rumors have been going around and which group they're targeting. Carly.
Well, Julian, this has been happening since Helene first hit. I mean, you've probably seen it yourself. You're scrolling on social media and you are just inundated with information. This is affecting state agencies. This is affecting federal agencies, as well as nonprofits like the American Red Cross. But those behind this door say don't believe everything that you see. On the ground, federal and state agencies are helping Helene survivors. On social media, a different narrative. A false one.
Whether somebody just saw something or it's a misunderstanding or they're just repeating something that they've heard before.
Todd James is with the American Red Cross, the organization targeted by misinformation. Rumors like the Red Cross isn't here, the Red Cross is throwing out items, or the Red Cross is taking over shelters. All not true. The Red Cross posted on X that it, quote, disrupts our ability to deliver critical aid and affects the disaster workers who have put their own lives on hold to assist those in need.
It just makes it more difficult. It makes it more difficult for those that have been affected because they really want answers and they're looking for help.
Social media has inflamed the issue, but the Red Cross has seen rumors in natural disasters before.
It's not necessarily what I would call common, but I think especially when it comes to disasters of this magnitude, I think it does become an issue simply because a response to something of this size takes a lot of moving parts, and unfortunately, it takes time.
And the Red Cross says if you want to know exactly what they do or where all of that money is going towards, you can check out their website or you can call 800 Red Cross directly. Carly Haynes, WRAL News, live in Raleigh.
Good advice to have. Now, the FEMA Rumor Response website recommends finding trusted sources of information, sharing only information from those sources, and discouraging others from sharing information that is not verified. You can find it on FEMA.gov in the Disaster and Assistance section. Helene's impact is something we are going to feel for months and in some cases years to come. Coming up, how one department's response to the storm could create some changes to a state tradition. Also ahead, why one of the stars of the popular Hangover movies was in Raleigh today.
Now, breaking news from WRAL. Coverage you can count on.
Breaking news, part of Capitol Boulevard is closed after a crash this morning that killed a driver. We'll show you the scene where police say the car hit part of a bridge.
And I'm tracking the cold front that's going to bring much cooler air starting tomorrow. I'll show you how warm it will feel on this last day that'll feel like summer.
Also, a new round of support is going out today for people recovering from Helene. The next steps in the relief effort in western North Carolina and the work still being done to restore power there.
And today marks 1 year since the Hamas attack on a music festival in Israel. This is a live look at the ceremony site where the festival was held. The vigils and protests planned today here in the Triangle. A lot to tell you about here on this Monday morning as we help get you started. I'm Renee Chu.
I'm Jeff Hogiak. Great to have you along here this morning. Hope you had a nice weekend. Hope you folks did as well. Elizabeth Gardner in the WRS Severe Weather Center. Right now, that look downtown, the last day of feeling like summer, you say?
Yeah, tomorrow we're going to be seeing highs in the 70s, a nice drop in our humidity. We take a look at what's happening right now. We're mainly clear right now, but in this pattern the last several days, we've had low cloud cover develop and some patchy fog. So that is likely as we get through the morning. Our dew point has already started to drop nicely, though. Yesterday, our dew point was in the low to mid 60s. We're down to 58, and that dew point in the 50s does feel comfortable. And our temperature is a little cooler, too, at 62. We'll see low 60s this morning. Our high this afternoon is still going to be on the warm side in the low 80s, and that is warmer than normal for this time of year. I'll show you the nice big drop and how long that will last coming up. We'll take a look at Hurricane Milton with winds at 90 miles per hour, moving east at 6 miles per hour right now. And of course, we'll check out the forecast path. We'll get a brand new path coming up at about 5 a.m. So we'll show that to you. Let's see if I can get this to behave. I'll show that to you then. So Category 1 now. And it's likely to become Category 4 before it makes landfall along the west coast of Florida. So we're talking about the potential for major damage here in Florida. With that sort of wind, we're going to talk about how bad the storm surge will be and how much heavy rain they'll see. The fan is still well away from North Carolina, but we could see some showers along the coast and possibly some damage in terms of erosion and some rip current danger as well. So we'll talk about our coastal impacts coming up.
Breaking news we're following this morning. There's an investigation into a crash that killed a man on Capitol Boulevard right near Wake Forest Road. That is all underway right now. And WRAL's Laura Levine is live right now from that scene. Laura, police say it appears the man was driving and hit a bridge support there.
Jeff, right now here standing on Capitol Boulevard behind me, you can see the flashing lights from RPD cruisers. Several crews are here on the scene, including the fire department assessing some of the damage here. But as you mentioned, this accident happened right near this bridge, this underpass here on Capitol Boulevard near Wake Forest Road. We can see the car involved in this accident kind of near the embankment here, right by that bridge support beam that it crashed into. Now, what led up to this crash? That is
is what we're working to find out, but we do know the man driving died this morning. Police got the call around 2:30 about this incident. We know no other vehicles were involved and no other occupants were in the car. We are working to learn more, but speed is believed to be a factor in this investigation. Now, this road here, Capitol Boulevard near Wake Forest Road, will be remain closed for some time as they continue to investigate. I can tell you that the pass coming into the interstate here is closed, but we've also seen several RPD officers setting up some of those lights to alert drivers of this incident. Laura Levine, WRAL News, we're live in Raleigh.
Florida is bracing for Hurricane Milton as communities there are still dealing with the effects from Helene. Mandatory evacuations are expected to begin in some areas today. Milton could make landfall as a powerful Cat 3 storm. People are preparing while still clearing away debris from Helene.
There's more help coming to western North Carolina right now. President Biden is sending an additional 500 active duty troops in that area, bringing the total number of active duty troops to 1,500. WRAL's Kelsey Coffey joins us live from the State Farmers Market. And Kelsey, this comes as people here in the Triangle still are gathering more needed supplies.
Jeff, people should be arriving here in just a few hours. And if you've driven near the State Farmers Market lately, you may have noticed this sign outside that's asking people to drop off any items for Hurricane Helene relief. And there's going to be some trucks headed through that front entrance in just a few hours to pick up some supplies. Organizers submitted these photos of the items they've already collected. They're estimating that they will pack up 225 bins today to send off to western North Carolina. Now, this comes as President Biden just approved more federal support for Helene recovery. 500 active duty troops were ordered to head to North Carolina last night. More than $137 million in federal assistance is already being used to support survivors, and more money is on the way. So we'll be here when people arrive to send off those supplies. Kelsey Coffey, WRAL News, live in Raleigh.
The work to restore power in western North Carolina could take months. This morning, there are still more than 130,000 customers without power in our state. Duke Energy spokesperson Jeff Brooks says that number can fluctuate as they bring transmission lines back on. Repair crews are now trying to get to areas that are more difficult to reach and have considerably more damage. And that's why the rate of restoration will get slower.
This is more difficult than your typical storm. This is not just a small house at the end of a line. This is a house at the end of the line that's had the entire line destroyed getting there. So, it involves bringing in crews, bringing in heavy equipment.
Brooks says one encouraging sign is that the number of outage locations in western North Carolina is down from as high as 16,000 to fewer than 10,000.
Buncombe County officials say search and rescue operations are moving into a slower, more difficult phase. Officials say at this point, 90% of primary searches are done. Those are searches of existing buildings. But now comes targeted searches where they'll be looking through areas where homes are destroyed. That requires going through debris piles with special equipment and canines. During this time, officials are asking visitors to stay away.
I know a lot of people want to come see our beautiful mountains. But right now, the people in these communities need to be able to take care of themselves, and we need to be able to get resources into them. And we cannot do that if we're hampered by people that's coming to see what's going on. Rely on the media to show you what's going on, and do not hamper emergency operations by driving through the areas.
Buncombe County leaders are also warning people to stay out of the rivers until the EPA confirms they're safe. That includes using river water for flushing.
Today marks 1 year since the Hamas attack on Israel. This is a live look at the memorial set up at the site of the music festival where Hamas attacked. More than 41,000 people have been killed since the war began. People around the world are honoring those killed during the October 7th attack. And that includes vigils in Tel Aviv, Berlin, London, and Paris. There are local services planned today, including one at Chabad of Durham Chapel Hill.
There's going to be a lot of things that we're doing to commemorate, and then again at night, a vigil. So this is the time that the Jewish community is digging deep within but like we've seen throughout our Jewish history, coming out more resilient, more resolved, and empowered to continue to share light and spread an act of goodness in the world.
Protesters in cities including Barcelona and Sydney rallied Sunday against the war in the Middle East and the humanitarian crisis in the Gaza Strip.
Renee, meantime, the Israeli military is ramping up strikes on Lebanon. At least 4 suburban neighborhoods were hit Sunday, according to officials there. This comes after Hezbollah launched rockets into Israel, hitting the country's 3rd largest city. Israeli airstrikes in Beirut are the most intense bombardment of the Lebanese capital since Israel escalated its campaign against Hezbollah last month.
Sunday night football turned into Monday morning football. The game didn't end until 1 in the morning because a weather delay pushed the start time to 9:45. The Dallas Cowboys got the win in the early morning hours. Dak Prescott threw a touchdown pass to Jalen Tolbert to put them in front with 20 seconds left. Cowboys topped the Steelers 20-17.
20 minutes before 5. Next, the increased security at some universities as protests are planned on the anniversary of the attacks at a music festival in Israel.
And here is a live look at Roxborough. It's going to be the last of the 80s for highs for now when a cold front brings authentic autumnal air into our area.
From the WRAL Severe Weather Center, North Carolina's most experienced team of meteorologists.
It is 4:43, and it's a pleasant morning out there. Temperatures are in the low to mid 60s, 62 in Durham and Raleigh, 63 in Fayetteville. We still have a little bit of moisture in the atmosphere, maybe enough for some low cloud cover or even some patchy fog in places. So we'll be watching for that. I haven't seen anything on the cameras or on the sensors yet, but sometimes that can happen as we kind of get through the day. This morning, temperatures are feeling good. This afternoon, very much like the last several days, looking at low 80s. The humidity is a little bit lower, so actually today should feel pretty nice out there. But of course, it will feel even more comfortable over the next few days. We're going to talk about how much our humidity drops and how much the temperatures drop too. You may be reaching for a jacket in the mornings with some chilly temperatures. I'll show you coming up.
Thousands of people are leaving a refugee camp in northern Gaza after an evacuation order was issued by Israel. People were seen leaving with all of the personal belongings they could carry. One person said they've been forced to move 11 times since the start of the war. The Israeli military announced a new air and ground offensive yesterday.
October 7th remembrances are set to take place around the U.S., including protests and vigils on some college campuses. In anticipation of those protests, Columbia University in New York is increasing security. The school will also restrict gate access to its main campus today. Students at Columbia held protests for several weeks last spring.
Video from WRAL Sky 5 shows some of the damage to spruce pine in Mitchell County. The Tow River came through the community, leaving behind all that mud. The roads were washed away by mudslides. Many are still without power and water there. The town also says the bears and yellow jackets, yeah, they're an issue in their recovery process. WRAL's Destiny Patterson gives us a closer look at the damage and how those communities are rallying together.
I'm wearing this mask here in Spruce Pine because of the dust that's in the area. People here tell me that this tangled web of trees was once a park in the area that's now been washed away by the floodwaters of Helene. We've traveled hundreds of miles from Raleigh to Asheville to Hendersonville, but primarily the small towns in between. Through our journey, there were still a few road closures that prevented us from getting to places like Chimney Rock and Lake Lure. Access to those areas is still primarily closed to the public, even more than a week after the storm. We also hit some traffic along the way full of volunteers and family members concerned about the people here in western North Carolina. At this point, there are still issues with power, water, and communication in many areas. But one thing is consistent in each one: community support.
This community has rallied. How people have come together. I mean, it's, you know, I've hugged people and prayed with people and thanked people that I've never laid eyes on before this weekend.
Through our travels, we've also seen crews here with FEMA as well as the Red Cross here to help people out in their time of need. To find out how you can help out, you can visit WRAL.com. Destiny Patterson, WRAL News, Mitchell County.
Baptists on Mission is making progress in Western North Carolina, but their damage assessment reveals a clear need for additional support. The organization has set up 25 different locations to feed people in Western North Carolina. Kitchen crews start as early as 3:30 in the morning to begin preparing meals, and they sometimes don't finish until 10:30 at night. There are also crews working to clear debris from streets and yards. The sheer magnitude of the storm's aftermath can take its toll on volunteers.
It does get stressful, and it takes a toll on you mentally, psychologically, physically.
Baptists on Mission is looking for more volunteers, and if you'd like to help, go to their website, baptistsonmission.org.
The response to Helene requires enormous help from the state. That means several agencies are getting spread quite thin. The Department of Agriculture is one of them, has every division involved in the disaster, from sheltering people and pets to delivering food and providing fire service. Yet the department is also dealing with its other responsibilities, especially this month.
So we have a state fair coming up not too long in the distant future. And with all hands on deck, and there's just not enough hands to go around right now. We've got 300 open positions in the department.
Well, that's a lot, and that is also the challenge of how to help farmers for the long term. The department is working with partners, the legislature, federal agencies, commodity groups, trying to figure out how to get enough disaster aid to people who need it, all while down hundreds of jobs. Elizabeth Gardner right now in the WRAL Severe Weather Center. We're talking about State Fair, mid-October time. It's going to start to feel like it.
It is finally, we've been holding on to some of this really warm air for the last several weeks. We take a live look at Raleigh right now and watching for some low cloud cover to develop across the area. But right now we're looking at clear skies, 62 degrees with a dew point of 58. So that is pleasant, and it will be even lower than that tomorrow. Dew point should be even lower. Temperatures will be a little cooler. Likely will be in the 50s, which mid-50s is actually normal for this time of year. We pulled that up a few minutes ago. I was like, wait a minute. I mean, our temperatures have been in the 60s for, the last several weeks. And so, yeah, it should be cooler than that. 84 in Raleigh, 82 in Durham, and 88 in Fayetteville. Definitely a much warmer than normal day for today. But that's what we've seen, over the last few days. The cold front, though, is on the move. You can see some showers along that front. A big line of thunderstorms coming through West Virginia last night associated with the front. But we're not likely to see rain with this. There could be a few isolated showers closer to the coast. But for us, we're just not going to see that. Our cloud cover forecast is minimal. I mean, we're looking at nice clear skies this morning, mostly sunny skies through the afternoon, just about 15 to 20% of the sky covered with clouds. It is a little on the muggy side today. I mean, right now our dew points are in the comfy zone down in the 50s, and they're likely to stay that way all the way through the weekend. Let's talk about the low temperatures. Tomorrow morning, it'll be 56, and that'll be, that's about 5 or 6 degrees cooler than where we are right now. But it gets even cooler, 52 Wednesday, 54 Thursday, but then 46 on Friday morning and 49 on Saturday morning. So you may be reaching for a sweater in the mornings or a jacket as you're headed out. Our normal high is 76, so we're well above that today. But then we settle down a little below that. 74 Tuesday, 72 on Wednesday, and in the 60s for highs on Thursday and Friday. Let's talk a little bit more about Milton with winds at 90 miles per hour, moving east at 6 miles per hour. It's about 700 miles from Tampa right now. We take a look at the forecast path of the storm. Notice that it becomes Category 4. Now, it's going to run into what we call wind shear, or some strong winds in the higher levels of the atmosphere as it approaches the coast of Florida, but it is still likely to be at least Cat 3 as it makes landfall. So strong, damaging winds. We're going to see high storm surge, of course, with this, and a lot of heavy rain. The forecast fan does not include North Carolina right now, but there will be some impacts here, the usual things that you would expect. We'll have just very light amounts of rain, but we could definitely have some beach erosion as well as some rip current danger, and we'll outline that in detail coming up. A nice 7-day forecast, definitely dry around here. We do have one 80-degree day on Sunday, but after that, it looks cooler again.
Looks great. Elizabeth, thank you. It's a good week to maybe try a new local restaurant. Everything you need to know about Downtown Raleigh Restaurant Week.
And it was a family affair during the Los Angeles Lakers preseason game against the Phoenix Suns. We'll show you LeBron James playing alongside his son Bronny for the first time. This week is Downtown Raleigh Restaurant Week. The event kicked off over the weekend, runs till Sunday. The annual celebration is in support of Raleigh's culinary community and acclaimed bar and restaurant scene. Nearly 90% of Raleigh's downtown restaurants are locally owned and independent. The complete list of participating restaurants, including Restaurant Week specials, can be found at downtownraleigh.org/Restaurant Week.
The star of Speed felt the need for it over the weekend. David Daniel has that and more in today's Hollywood Minute.
Driving cars. Keanu Reeves hits the track. The actor and musician put the pedal to the metal at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in a racing series for amateur drivers and aspiring racers. Reeves is a longtime racing enthusiast. In 2009, he won the Long Beach Toyota Grand Prix celebrity racing event. Glenn Powell is following in Arnold Schwarzenegger's footsteps. The Twisters and Anyone But You star is set for a remake of 1987's The Running Man. Edgar Wright, the man behind Shaun of the Dead and Baby Driver, is on board to direct. The Running Man is due in theaters November 21st, 2025.
There's a very distinct and real possibility that I am about to fall in love with you.
Andrew Garfield says he and Florence Pugh went a bit overboard for a sex scene in We Live in Time. Garfield says the scene on a closed set went on a little bit further than we were meant to because we didn't hear cut and it's feeling safe. He says they eventually looked up to see the camera operator was averting his eyes. We Live in Time opens in theaters Friday. In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
LeBron James and his son Bronny are making NBA history. The father-son duo played together for the first time during a preseason game against the Phoenix Suns. The moment came when Bronny checked into the game at the start of the second quarter. They are the first father and son to play in an NBA game at the same time. Bronny also celebrated his 20th birthday yesterday. Lots to celebrate. People in Florida are bracing for Hurricane Milton as it's expected to strengthen today when it could make landfall on the state's Gulf Coast.
Also, more federal assistance is heading to the western part of North Carolina as people there work together to rebuild their communities.
Scary moments after fire erupts from under a Frontier plane during a hard landing, where this plane was headed when the pilot started to smell smoke.